My name is Shen Sungning, the legitimate eldest daughter of the Shen family. I should have enjoyed a life of wealth and honor, yet fate played a cruel joke on me, and I spent my previous life in misery. I will never forget that nightmare of a day. My stepmother and half-sister conspired to swap my marriage with the man they had chosen. Just like that, I was forced to marry a disreputable spoiled scion, while my half-sister Shen Xinyao transformed overnight into the lofty wife of the heir apparent. On my wedding night, I sat alone in the bridal chamber, my heart full of grievance and unwillingness, yet with nowhere to voice it. My husband, that unlearned libertine, spent his days in wine and debauchery, paying me no mind whatsoever. He treated me as if I were nothing, trampling my dignity at will and shattering my beautiful hopes for the future. As for Shen Xinyao, in that grand mansion, she enjoyed all the honor and splendor of the heir apparent's wife, dressed in sumptuous clothing and adorned with precious jewelry. She was surrounded by admiring crowds, basking in unlimited glory. Watching her flaunt her superiority before me filled my heart with anger and humiliation. But fate seemed determined to be even more cruel to me. Later, the heir died suddenly and young, and Shen Xinyao was left a widow at a tender age. I had thought she too would taste the bitter fruit of destiny, but I never expected that my husband would, at that moment, turn back from his wayward past. He began to study diligently and train in martial arts with great discipline, and in the end became a war god famed for countless military exploits. I thought my hard days were finally coming to an end, but the truth dealt me a heavy blow once again. After my husband achieved success and fame, he remained as cold to me as ever. He spent years campaigning outside, and when he returned, countless confidants and beauties surrounded him, while I was still the pitiful one he had forgotten. In some corner in that deep mansion, I was isolated and helpless, suffering humiliation and scorn from others. Those servants, seeing that I had fallen out of favor, no longer took me seriously either. They brazenly deducted from my monthly allowance and mocked me coldly. The resentment in my heart grew wildly like weeds, yet there was nothing I could do. In the end, on a freezing snowy night, I died full of bitterness and hatred. At that moment, my heart held nothing but endless regret and unwillingness. If I could start over, I would never again let myself fall into such a desperate situation. Perhaps heaven heard my prayers. When I woke again, I found that I had actually returned to the day before the spouse exchange. I lay on the soft bed, and the familiar arrangement of the room left me dazed for a moment. I stared blankly at the bed curtains above me, my heart a tangled mess of emotions. It took a long while before I slowly came to my senses and realized that I had truly been reborn. This time, I will never let you succeed again. I clenched my fists tightly, my nails digging deeply into my palms, silently swearing in my heart, in this life, I would rewrite my destiny and make those who had once hurt me pay the price they deserved. I would make Shen Xinyao taste the bitterness of being abandoned and trampled on, and make her pay for what she had done. I would make my husband, that worthless playboy who had once been cold and heartless toward me, regret his actions. And I, Shen Sungning, would become the master of this fate. I would live brilliantly, live freely, and no longer be controlled by anyone. Having been reborn, I spent every day carefully preparing for my own marriage. On the surface, I seemed calm, but inside I remained on high alert for every move Shen Xinyao made. I knew all too well that she would never give up the chance to become the heir's wife so easily, and would surely stop at nothing to ruin my plans. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Shen Xinyao began her scheming. First, she wept before our stepmother, saying that she had fallen at first sight for that debauched young man and would marry no one but him. Our stepmother felt sorry for her and began whispering to father, trying to persuade him to change his mind. Father had always doted on our stepmother and Shen Xinyao, and with our stepmother's soft persuasion, his heart gradually wavered. That day, father summoned me to his study and said to me with a troubled look, "Ninga, your father knows you have always been obedient and sensible. Now that your younger sister is deeply devoted to the second young master of the Marquis's residence, do you think this marriage could be changed?" I sneered inwardly, but on the surface I put on a wronged expression and said, "Father, your daughter will obey whatever arrangements you make. It's just that marriage is a major matter, one that concerns your daughter's lifelong happiness. I hope father will think it over carefully. That second young master of the Marquis's manor has quite the reputation outside. He's idle and incompetent, spending his days in wine, women, and song. Your daughter truly. After hearing my words, father frowned and said somewhat hesitantly, "This, I have heard of that as well. But your younger sister has already made up her mind. What are we to do now?" Seeing that the time was ripe, I deliberately said, "Father, since younger sister is so determined, it wouldn't be proper for me to stop her. It's just that I've heard that although the second young master of the Marquis's manor is a wastrel now, his mother, the Marchioness, is extremely shrewd and capable. If younger sister marries into the manor, with the Marchioness to guide her, perhaps she can help the second young master mend his ways and return to the right path." After hearing my words, father's eyes lit up, and he felt it made perfect sense. He no longer hesitated and decided to follow Shen Xinyao's wishes, marrying her to the second young master of the Marquis's manor, while I would still marry the heir, Pei Ruyan. After Shen Xinyao learned of the news, she was overjoyed, believing that her plan had succeeded. Every day she was busy preparing her dowry, a happy smile on her face, as if she had already seen the bright future of becoming the mistress of the Marquis's household. As for me, watching her smug, complacent look, I sneered inwardly. I knew she was digging her own grave. My experiences in my past life made me understand that although the second young master of the Marquis's household eventually became a war god, before that, his debauched nature was not so easily changed. After Shen Xinyao married him, she would have plenty of suffering ahead. In order to make sure Shen Xinyao smoothly jumped into the fire pit, I also secretly made some arrangements. I bought off Shen Xinyao's personal maid and had her reveal some of the second young master of the Marquis's household's advantages in front of Shen Xinyao, such as that although he was a libertine, he was generous and straightforward, and especially compliant with the person he liked. Hearing these words, Shen Xinyao became even more determined to marry the second young master of the Marquis's household. At the same time, I deliberately brought up Shen Xinyao in front of the second young master of the Marquis's household, saying that she was gentle and kind, well-educated and reasonable, and had long admired him. The second young master of the Marquis's household was already lecherous. After hearing my description, he developed a strong interest in Shen Xinyao and could not wait to meet her. Just like that, under my careful arrangement, Shen Xinyao's marriage to the second young master of the Marquis's estate progressed very smoothly. Soon, the wedding day arrived. On the day of the grand wedding, Shen Xinyao, dressed in a gorgeous bridal gown and wearing a phoenix coronet and ceremonial robes, sat into the bridal sedan chair with a face full of happiness. Watching her leave, I felt no ripple in my heart, only endless cold indifference. Shen Xinyao, this is the path you chose yourself, so don't blame me for being ruthless. From this day on, just enjoy the retribution you deserve, I said silently to myself. At last, the day of my own grand wedding arrived. On this day, the entire Shen residence was decorated with lanterns and streamers, lively and bustling, but I knew this so-called excitement was only surface level. My stepmother and Shen Xinyao were probably grinding their teeth with hatred in their hearts. I wore the phoenix coronet and embroidered bridal robes, seated myself before the bronze mirror, and let the maids dress and groom me. Looking at the face in the mirror, both strange and familiar, my heart was a mix of conflicting emotions. In my previous life, on this very day, fate had cruelly toyed with me, and in this life, I would definitely rewrite my destiny. The wedding procession soon arrived, accompanied by non-stop firecrackers and music, supported by maids. I stepped slowly out of the room and climbed into the bridal sedan chair. All the way, I clenched my fists tightly, forcing myself to stay calm. I knew the real ordeal was only just beginning. Soon, the bridal sedan chair stopped at the entrance of the Marquis's mansion. I took a deep breath and, with the bride's attendant's support, stepped over that high threshold. The great gate of the Marquis's residence slowly closed behind me, completely cutting me off from everything in my past. After entering the Marquis's mansion, I first performed the wedding rites with Pei Ruyan, and then served tea to Madame Hu sat upright in the seat of honor, her expression stern, with a hint of indiscernible coldness in her eyes. She glanced at me indifferently and said, "From this day on, you are the heir's wife of the Marquis's household. You must abide by proper womanly conduct and not bring shame to the mansion." I lowered my head and replied, "Your daughter-in-law respectfully follows mother's instructions." After the ceremony was completed, the maids led me to the bridal chamber. The room was decorated with great festivity. Bright red double happiness characters were pasted all over the walls, and a brocade quilt embroidered with a dragon and phoenix auspicious design was laid on the bed. I sat quietly by the bedside, waiting for Pei Ruyan to arrive. I don't know how long had passed before the door was finally pushed open. Pei Ruyan walked in, dressed in a red wedding robe, tall and upright, his expression cold and stern. He glanced at me, his gaze devoid of warmth, and said lightly, "Rest for now." After speaking, he turned and sat down at the table, pouring himself a cup of tea. I felt a little disappointed, but it was also within my expectations. After all, we had married under the arrangements of our families, and there had never been any feelings between us. I stood up, walked to his side, and said softly, "Young master, today is our wedding day. Let's turn in early." Pei Ruyan his head and looked at me, a hint of hesitation flashing through his eyes. After a moment, he nodded and said, "Very well." That night, we slept in the same bed but dreamed different dreams. I lay beside him, listening to his steady breathing, while my mind was filled with countless thoughts. I knew that winning his heart would be far from easy, but I would not give up. Before he died, I had to give birth to a little heir and secure a measure of protection for myself and the child. The next day, as soon as dawn broke, I got up early. After a quick wash and grooming, I took my maid and went to pay my respects to the Dowager Madam of the Marquis residence. In the Dowager Madam's courtyard, quite a few people were already waiting. Besides Pei Ruyan's several concubines and legitimate younger sisters, there were also some servants of the Marquis residence. When everyone saw me arrive, they all rose to greet me. I smiled and responded to each of them one by one, striving to carry myself properly and gracefully. After the morning greetings, the Dowager Madam said to me, "Since you have already married into the Marquis residence, you should become familiar with the household rules as soon as possible. Starting today, you will follow me and learn the ways of managing the household." I quickly replied, "This daughter-in-law thanks mother for your guidance." And so, I began my new life in the Marquis residence. Every day, I had to get up early, go pay my respects to the Dowager Madam, and then follow her to learn how to manage the household. The Dowager Madam was very strict with me. If I made even the slightest mistake, I would be reprimanded by her. But I never complained. Instead, I studied even harder. In the days at the Marquis's mansion, my relationship with Pei Ruyan remained as distant as ever. He was busy with official duties every day and seldom had time to stay at home. Even when he occasionally came back, he would only say a few simple words to me before returning to his study. I knew that in his heart there was only the state and the realm, and there was no place for a wife like me at all. But I was not discouraged. I believed that as long as I managed things with care, one day he would see how good I was. Day by day passed, and I knew full well that if I wanted to gain a firm foothold in this Marquis's mansion, the urgent task was to fulfill my wish and bear a little heir. Yet Pei Ruyan was always indifferent to me. Apart from a few words during the morning greetings, we had almost no interaction at other times. I decided to take the initiative. In order to create opportunities to spend time with Pei Ruyan, I began paying attention to his preferences and daily schedule. I discovered that every morning he would go to practice swordsmanship by the small pond behind the garden, so I would also get up early, carefully dress myself, and go to the garden with my maid. That day, when I came to the pond, Pei Ruyan was already there practicing his sword. He wore a moon-white robe, his posture agile, sword shadows flashing, like an exquisitely beautiful painting. I stood quietly to the side, admiring his heroic bearing, and my heart could not help but ripple with a faint wave. After Pei Ruyan finished practicing his sword, he noticed my presence. He frowned slightly and asked, "Why are you here?" I smiled and said, "Your Highness is superb with the sword. This concubine has long admired you and came especially today to feast my eyes." hearing my words. A trace of surprise flashed in Pei Ruyan's eyes, but he quickly returned to calm and said indifferently, "They're nothing more than a few exercises for strengthening the body. There's nothing worth seeing." I was not discouraged and continued, "Your Highness is too modest. Though I do not understand swordsmanship, I can still see that Your Highness's sword skills combine softness and firmness, with remarkable power. I wonder if Your Highness could teach me." Pei Ruyan glanced at me. Seeming somewhat hesitant, I quickly pressed on while the iron was hot, saying, "Don't worry, Your Highness. This concubine will study diligently and will never waste Your Highness's time." Perhaps moved by my persistence, Pei Ruyan finally nodded and said, "Very well, since you want to learn, I'll teach you some basic moves." I was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. In the days that followed, I practiced swordsmanship with Pei Ruyan every day, although he still appeared cold and distant on the surface. He was extremely serious when teaching me sword techniques. He demonstrated every movement patiently and explained every detail carefully. Under his instruction, my swordsmanship gradually improved. Besides practicing swordsmanship, when Pei Ruyan was handling official duties, I would bring him a cup of hot tea or prepare some pastries he liked. At first, he did not pay much attention to my actions, but gradually, he began to grow accustomed to my presence and would occasionally chat with me. Once, while Pei Ruyan was handling official business in his study, he suddenly encountered a difficult problem. His brows were tightly knit, his face full of worry. Seeing this, I asked softly, "Has the heir apparent encountered some troubling matter? Perhaps you might tell your concubine about it. Maybe I can help the heir apparent come up with a plan." Pei Ruyan glanced at me, seemingly a little surprised that I would ask such a thing, but he still told me what had happened from beginning to end. After hearing him out, I pondered for a moment and said, "Heir apparent, in my opinion, this matter may be approached from this angle." I then explained my thoughts in detail. As Pei Ruyan listened, the worry in his eyes gradually faded, replaced by a hint of admiration. He said, "I never expected you to have such insight. You've truly made this heir apparent look at you in a new light." Receiving his approval, I was overjoyed and said, "You flatter me, Your Highness. I merely enjoy reading in my spare time and know only a little about it." From then on, whenever Pei Ruyan encountered a problem, he would occasionally take the initiative to discuss it with me, and our relationship gradually grew even closer as a result. As time passed, I could clearly feel a change in Pei Ruyan's attitude toward me. He was no longer as cold as before. From time to time, he would show me a gentle smile, and his gaze held a bit more concern, and I, too, through our time together, unknowingly fell for him. One day, after Pei Ruyan had finished dealing with official matters, he suddenly said to me, "The weather is nice today. How about we go horseback riding in the outskirts?" When I heard this, I was overjoyed and quickly nodded in agreement. We arrived in the outskirts, and Pei Ruyan personally picked out a gentle little horse for me. Sitting on its back, I was both nervous and excited. Seeing this, Pei Ruyan came to my side and softly said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." With that, he took hold of the reins and led me forward slowly. Under his guidance, I gradually mastered the skills of riding, and my courage grew greater and greater. We galloped freely across the grasslands outside the city, feeling the caress of the breeze, our hearts filled with joy. After playing until we were tired, we found a place with beautiful scenery to rest. Pei Ruyan took a bundle down from the horse's back. Inside were some pastries and wine. He handed me the pastries and said, "Try these, they're your favorite cakes." I took them, warmth surging in my heart, and said, "Your Highness, do you still remember that I like these?" Pei Ruyan smiled slightly and said, "Of course I remember. I keep all your preferences in my heart." We sat on the grass, eating the pastries while admiring the beautiful scenery around us. The sunlight fell on us, warm and comfortable. At that moment, it seemed as though I had forgotten all my worries, feeling only that time was peaceful and the world was stable. Looking at Pei Ruyan's handsome profile, a sudden urge rose in my heart. I said softly, "Your Highness, thank you." Pei Ruyan turned to look at me, his eyes full of tenderness, and said, "Thank me for what?" Gathering my courage, I said, "Thank you for letting me feel a warmth I have never felt before, and thank you for being so kind to me." Upon hearing what I said, Pei Ruyan was slightly stunned, then he gently took my hand and said, "Silly girl, I'm kind to you because like you, from the day we were married, I had already unconsciously fallen for you." Hearing his confession, I was both surprised and delighted, and my eyes gradually grew wet. I said, "My lord, I like you too." Pei Ruyan pulled me into his arms and said, "From now on, we must always be together, never parting." Leaning in his embrace, I nodded vigorously, my heart full of happiness. From then on, our feelings grew deeper and deeper. Whenever he had free time, Pei Ruyan would accompany me to admire flowers and play chess. When I was sick, he would take meticulous care of me. When I encountered difficulties, he would shield me from the wind and rain, and I, too, would prepare meals for him when he was busy, massage away his fatigue when he was tired, and give him encouragement and support when he was lost. Although our life was plain, it was filled with sweetness and warmth. I knew that I had already found the happiness that belonged to me, and all of this I had to thank fate for allowing me in this life to meet, know, and love Pei Ruyan. Since then, the feelings between me and Pei Ruyan had grown even deeper, and our days had become all the more sweet. Every morning, we would practice swordsmanship together in the garden, the rising sun casting our silhouettes of happiness upon us. In the afternoon, we would either read and sip tea together in the study or play chess against each other in the courtyard, while time quietly slipped away amid laughter and joy. In the evening, we would stroll hand in hand along the corridors of the Marquis's residence, sharing the day's happenings and our private thoughts, savoring this rare peace and warmth. On this day, under a bright and sunny sky, Pei Ruyan said to me, "The weather is perfect today, why don't we go out of the city for a little outing?" I gladly agreed, my heart full of anticipation. We took a few guards and maids with us and rode out of the city on horseback. The scenery outside the city was breathtaking: green mountains, clear waters, birdsong, and fragrant flowers, all refreshingly delightful. We stopped by a stream, its water so clear that the bottom was visible, with fish swimming freely in it. I crouched down and gently touched the stream with my hand. The cool sensation instantly spread through my whole body, and I couldn't help but laugh happily. Pei Ruyan looked at me with eyes full of indulgence and said, "Look at you, acting like a child." Smiling, I replied, "When I'm with the young Marquis, I naturally relax. In the Marquis's residence, I always feel like I have to be mindful of my words and actions at all times, afraid of breaking the rules." Pei Ruyan gently took my hand and said, "From now on, with me here, you don't need to be so restrained. Do whatever you want, I'll protect you." My heart warmed, and I leaned against his shoulder, feeling his warmth and love. Tired from playing, we sat down on the grass by the stream and ate the pastries and fruit the maids had prepared. I picked up a piece of pastry and held it to Pei Ruyan's lips. He paused slightly, then smiled and opened his mouth to eat it. Seeing the look on his face, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Pei Ruyan looked at me, a hint of cunning flashing in his eyes. He also picked up a piece of pastry and said, "Come, my lady, let me feed you too." Smiling, I opened my mouth, only to have him suddenly pull the pastry back and eat it himself. I pretended to be angry and punched his chest, but he quickly caught my hand and said with a smile, all right, I won't tease you anymore, here you go." With that, he picked up another piece of pastry and gently fed it to me. Eating the pastry, my heart was full of sweetness. Just as we were enjoying this wonderful time, we suddenly heard a burst of hoofbeats. Looking up, we saw a group of people riding toward us on horseback. Leading them was a young woman, dressed in splendid clothes and with a lovely face, but there was a hint of arrogance in her eyes. The group stopped in front of us. The woman looked me up and down, her eyes full of contempt, and said, "So you're Pei Ruyan's wife, nothing special." I felt somewhat displeased, but still kept my manners and said with a smile, "May I ask who you are, miss?" The woman let out a cold snort and said, "I'm Lin Wanna, the daughter of the Minister of Rights. I've known Brother Pei since childhood, and I never expected him to marry someone as insignificant as you." After hearing her words, I understood why she had come. It turned out she was jealous that I had married Pei Ruyan. I glanced at Pei Ruyan, whose face had grown somewhat dark. He said, "Miss Lin, please mind your words. This is my wife." and I hope you can show her some respect." Upon hearing Pei Ruyan's words, a trace of resentment flashed in Lin Wanna's eyes. She said, "Brother Pei, you never treated me like this before. Ever since she came, you've changed." Pei Ruyan frowned and said, "Miss Lin, let the past stay in the past. I am already married now, and my heart belongs only to my wife." Seeing how much Pei Ruyan was protecting me, Lin Wanna grew even more jealous. She suddenly jumped down from her horse and rushed toward me, wanting to strike me. I was startled and hurriedly stepped back. Pei Ruyan reacted swiftly, shielding me behind him in one motion and grabbing Lin Wanna's wrist. He said, "Lin Wanna, you've gone too far." Lin Wanna struggled and said, "Brother Pei, let go of me. I'm going to teach this woman a lesson." Pei Ruyan said coldly, "If you keep causing trouble, don't blame me for being rude." Seeing that Pei Ruyan was truly angry, Lin Wanna felt a little afraid, but she was still unwilling to give up. She said, "Brother Pei, you'll regret this. I won't let her off." After saying that, she turned, mounted her horse, and left with the group watching their retreating figures. I felt somewhat worried. I said to Pei Ruyan, "Prince, Lin Wanna won't let this go. What should we do?" Pei Ruyan pulled me into his arms and said, "Don't be afraid. With me here, she won't dare do anything to you. I'll protect you and won't let anyone hurt you." Leaning against his embrace, I nodded, and a warm current rose in my heart. After this incident, the bond between Pei Ruyan and me became even more unshakable. We both understood that in this complicated world, each other's companionship and trust were the most precious things of all. We promised each other that no matter what hardships or challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, never abandoning one another. Life went on so peacefully and happily. Pei Ruyan and I were immersed in each other's love, as if all the troubles in the world had nothing to do with us. However, fate seemed not to intend to let us continue on so smoothly. One day, an unexpected guest suddenly arrived at the Marquis's residence. The moment I saw him, my heart tightened violently, and the teacup in my hand nearly slipped to the ground. It was none other than my husband from my previous life, the once Playboy son of nobility, now the god of war, Xiao Chen. He looked at me, his eyes filled with complex emotions, surprise, regret, and a trace of love he could not hide. He said, "Sang Ning, I've been reborn. I know I wronged you in our past life, and in this one, I will surely make it up to you properly." I sneered inwardly, but kept a calm expression on my face. I said, "General Xiao, I'm afraid you've mistaken me for someone else. I am the heir's wife of the Marquis's residence, and I have no connection with you." Xiao Chen was still unwilling to give up. He said, "Sang Ning, don't be like this. I know you're still angry with me, and I don't blame you. I just want you to give me a chance, so I can prove my feelings for you." I looked at him, my eyes full of indifference. I said, "General Xiao, please conduct yourself with propriety. My husband and I are deeply in love, and husband and wife are one. My heart holds only him and cannot contain another. I hope you will stop pestering me, so as not to bring further trouble." Xiao Chen seemed as though he still had something to say, but at that moment, Pei Ruyan walked in. Seeing Xiao Chen, his face immediately darkened. He came to my side, shielding me behind him, and said, "General Xiao, my wife has already made herself very clear. Please leave." Xiao Chen looked at Pei Ruyan, a flicker of jealousy flashing in his eyes. He said, "Pei Ruyan, don't be so smug. Sang Ning is my wife. She was in my past life, and she is in this one too. I won't give up that easily." Pei Ruyan said coldly, "General Xiao, I'm afraid you still don't understand your own place. This is the Marquis's residence, not somewhere you can run wild. I advise you to leave as soon as possible, or don't blame me for being rude." Xiao Chen gritted his teeth, and in the end still turned and left. Watching his departing back, I felt a mix of emotions. Memories of all the pain from my past life surged up, and I leaned against Pei Ruyan's chest, softly saying, "Shizzy, I'm a little tired." Pei Ruyan gently stroked my hair and said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you, including him." From then on, Xiao Chen seemed determined to win me back. He began appearing before me frequently, sending all kinds of precious gifts, writing heartfelt letters, And even sitting at the entrance of the Marquis's residence for an entire day, just to catch a glimpse of me, I was utterly annoyed by his behavior. Every time, I rejected him without mercy, returned every gift he sent untouched, and burned his letters without even reading them. There was only Pei Ruyan in my heart. The hurt from the past had left me with nothing but disgust for Xiao Chen, and I would never give him another chance. Although Pei Ruyan trusted me, seeing Xiao Chen cling to me like that still made him somewhat jealous. He made an even greater effort to stay by my side, care for me, and feared that I might be taken away by Xiao Chen. Watching how nervous he was, I felt both moved and amused. I repeatedly assured him that my heart belonged to him alone, and told him not to worry. However, Xiao Chen had no intention of giving up easily. He began opposing Pei Ruyan in court, using his power to suppress him, trying to force him to back down. Pei Ruyan refused to be outdone. Relying on his own intelligence and strategies, he thwarted Xiao Chen's schemes time and again. In this war without gunfire, I remained firmly by Pei Ruyan's side, offering him counsel and facing the difficulties. Together with him, I believed that as long as we worked together, nothing could tear us apart. As for Xiao Chen, his actions would only make me more determined to stay far away from him and let him fully understand that there was no longer any possibility between us. It was not long before the peaceful days gave way to an unprecedented crisis for the Marquis's residence. Pei Ruyan's candid remonstrance in court had touched the interests of certain powerful nobles. They banded together and falsely accused Pei Ruyan before the emperor of plotting rebellion. The evidence seemed conclusive, and the emperor flew into a rage, immediately ordering the Marquis's residence sealed and Pei Ruyan thrown into prison. The entire Marquis's residence was instantly thrown into chaos. Everyone panicked and had no idea what to do. I forced down the fear and grief in my heart and tried my best to calm myself. I knew that at a time like this, I could not fall apart. I had to find a way to save Pei Ruyan and save the Marquis's residence first. I calmed everyone in the Marquis's residence and told them not to panic, that I would handle everything. Then I began running about everywhere, looking for people who could help us. I visited Pei Ruyan's friends and colleagues, hoping they would plead for him before the emperor, but they were all afraid of being implicated and refused me one after another. Just when I was feeling hopeless, I suddenly thought of someone, the eldest princess. The eldest princess was the emperor's younger sister and highly respected by him. She was upright and kind-hearted, and perhaps she could help us. So I immediately went to the eldest princess's residence and cried as I told her about what had happened to the Marquis's household. After hearing me out, the eldest princess felt great sympathy for us and promised that she would speak up for Pei Ruyan in front of the emperor. With the eldest princess's support, a glimmer of hope rose in my heart, but I knew that was far from enough. We still needed to find evidence to prove Pei Ruyan's innocence. I began carefully studying the evidence used to frame Pei Ruyan, trying to uncover its flaws. After days and nights of effort, I finally discovered the truth. It turned out that all that evidence had been forged, deliberately fabricated by those powerful nobles in order to frame Pei Ruyan. With these pieces of evidence in hand, I once again went to the Grand Princess's residence to discuss a plan with her. After reviewing the evidence, the Grand Princess was deeply shocked, and she decided to join me in meeting the Emperor to expose the schemes of those powerful and influential people. With the Grand Princess's help, we finally gained an audience with the Emperor. I presented the evidence to him and explained the truth in detail. After examining it, the Emperor flew into a rage and ordered a full investigation, demanding severe punishment for those powerful figures who had framed Pei Ruyan. After an investigation, the truth was finally brought to light. Those powerful figures were punished according to the law, and Pei Ruyan was released without charge. The crisis facing the Marquis's residence was finally resolved, and our family was reunited once more. Having gone through this crisis, the bond between me and Pei Ruyan grew even deeper. We understood clearly that in the tangled world of the imperial court and the deep, secluded courtyards of the wealthy, only by trusting and supporting each other could we get through one difficulty after another. Pei Ruyan held my hand tightly and said affectionately, "Sang Ning, thank you. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I really would have lost my life this time." I leaned against his embrace, tears glistening in my eyes, and said, "Your Highness, don't say that. We are husband and wife are one. No matter what difficulties we encounter, we must face them together." From then on, Pei Ruyan cherished our relationship even more. In his spare time, he would accompany me for walks in the garden and watch the sunrise and sunset together. When I ran into trouble, he would listen patiently as I confided in him, helping me resolve my worries and difficulties. When I was ill, he would take meticulous care of me, staying by my bedside all night without sleep, and I, too, would prepare steaming hot meals for him when he was busy with affairs of the court, and brew him a cup of tea he liked. When he was tired, I would give him a massage to ease his fatigue, letting him feel the warmth of home. When he was troubled by matters of state, I would encourage and support him, discussing solutions with him together. Our life, though ordinary, was filled with sweetness and happiness. I knew this was the life I wanted. With him by my side, no matter what the future held, I was no longer afraid. After the Hu Mansion crisis was resolved, I thought I could live a peaceful and happy life with Pei Ruyan, but the hatred from my past life felt like a bone stuck in my throat, and I could never fully let it go. So, I decided to investigate the truth of my previous life in secret. I wanted Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen to pay the price for what they had done. I sent the mansion's capable dark guards to gather evidence everywhere. After a difficult investigation, I finally found ironclad proof of Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen's collusion. It turned out that in my past life, in order to achieve their own goals, they not only schemed to make me and Xiao Chen switch marriages, but after Xiao Chen became the god of war, they repeatedly slandered me before him, causing him to grow to dislike me. Even more despicable, they also plotted in secret to seize the Hu Mansion's property and power, bringing about the destruction of the entire family. Looking at the evidence in my hands, the flames of anger burned fiercely in my heart. I showed the evidence to Pei Ruyan. After reading it, his face turned terrifyingly dark, and he said, "This Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen have gone too far. To do such outrageous, heartless things, I will never let them get away with it." I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself, saying, "My lord, we must not act rashly. They now have some power in court as well. If we make a move without caution, I'm afraid we'll alert them. We need to come up with a foolproof plan to ruin them completely." Pei Ruyan nodded and said, "Madam is right. We'll hold our ground for now and wait for the right moment. I'd like to see just how long they can remain smug." So, we began waiting for the right opportunity. Finally, it came. That day, the emperor was hosting a grand banquet, inviting all the civil and military officials of the court, as well as the wives and daughters of each household. I knew this was an excellent chance to expose the crimes of Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen. On the day of the banquet, I dressed up carefully and went to the imperial palace with Pei Ruyan. At the banquet, music and dancing filled the air, and everyone was laughing and chatting happily, yet I had no heart for the festivities. My eyes kept searching for Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen. Soon, I spotted them. Shinshinyao, dressed in splendid attire and adorned with precious jewelry, walked into the banquet hall laughing and talking with Xiao Chen. Her face was alight with a smug smile, as though the entire world lay beneath her feet. I exchanged a glance with Pei Ruyan, then slowly stood up and walked toward them. When Shinshinyao saw us, the smile on her face instantly stiffened. A trace of panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. Smiling, she said, "Well, if it isn't the heir and the heir's wife, what a coincidence to run into you both here today." I let out a cold laugh and said, "Shinshinyao, Xiao Chen, you're both really good at acting, but today is the end for you." As I spoke, I took the evidence from my bosom, held it high, and said loudly, "Everyone, today I will expose a shocking secret. Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen, in order to achieve their own goals, spared no means. They framed me and even tried to seize the Marquis's estate and power. This is the evidence of their collusion. Please take a look." Hearing my words, everyone turned to us in astonishment. Shinshinyao and Xiao Chen went pale. They wanted to defend themselves, but I refuted them point by point. Pei Ruyan also stepped forward and laid out their crimes one by one. After hearing us out, the emperor was furious. He ordered Shinshinyaro and Xiaochen to be thrown into prison to await their punishment. Seeing that the situation was beyond saving, Shinshinyaro and Xiaochen collapsed to the ground, crying bitterly. Looking at the state they were in, I felt not the slightest pity. This was the punishment they deserved. The hatred from my past life had finally been avenged today. Pei Ruyan and I held each other tightly, knowing that from this moment on, we could finally let go of the past and start our lives anew. Ever since Shinshinyaro and Xiaochen were punished, life seemed to have returned to its former peace and sweetness. The feelings between Pei Ruyan and me grew deeper and deeper, and under our management, the Marquis's residence also became increasingly prosperous as the days passed. I gradually noticed something unusual about my body. I often felt tired, and my appetite changed as well. Just seeing greasy food made me want to retch. At first, I did not pay much attention to it, thinking only that I had been overworked lately, but after this went on for some time, I faintly began to have a suspicion that day. As usual, Pei Ruyan hurried back to the Marquis's residence after court and came to my room. Seeing that my complexion was somewhat pale and that I was resting by the bed, he could not help but ask with concern, "Madam, what's wrong today? You don't look very well." I looked at him, a hint of shyness and joy flashing in my eyes, and said softly, "Young master, I may be pregnant." Upon hearing this, Pei Ruyan was first stunned, then a look of overwhelming delight broke across his face. Excitedly, he came over to my side and carefully pulled me into his arms, his voice trembling slightly. "Madam, is that true? Are we going to have our own child?" I leaned against his chest and gently nodded, tears of happiness glistening in my eyes. Pei Ruyan held me tightly, as though afraid it was all just a dream. He planted one tender kiss after another on my forehead, repeating over and over, "Wonderful, wonderful." Soon, the good news spread throughout the entire Marquis estate. After hearing it, the Marchioness was also overjoyed and immediately sent for the best imperial physician in the city. After carefully taking my pulse, the physician smiled in congratulations. "Congratulations, young master and young madam. Young madam is indeed 2 months pregnant, the pulse is steady, and the fetus is healthy." Upon hearing the imperial physician's words, the anxiety in Pei Ruyan's heart finally fell away. He generously rewarded the physician and also instructed everyone in the manor to take good care of me and not to be the least bit careless. From then on, Pei Ruyan was even more attentive and considerate toward me. He personally selected all kinds of precious nourishing herbs and instructed the kitchen to prepare nutritious soups and broths for me every day. In his free time, he would accompany me for slow walks in the garden, gently stroking my belly as we walked and speaking softly to the unborn child. He would also prepare all sorts of novel little trinkets for me, solely to amuse me and keep me in a cheerful mood, and I, too, was immersed in the joy of soon becoming a mother. I began preparing all kinds of little clothes and shoes for the child, pouring my love for the baby into every stitch. I imagined what the child would look like after birth. Would they be as handsome and graceful as Pei Ruyan, or as gentle and lovely as me? The entire Hu residence was immersed in an atmosphere of joy and anticipation. With everyone preparing for this soon-to-arrive little life, the maids were busy cleaning rooms and setting up the nursery. The servants were running around purchasing all kinds of baby items, from delicate cradles to soft bedding, each carefully chosen. As my belly grew larger day by day, I became increasingly inconvenient in my movements, but Pei Ruyan remained by my side all along, taking care of me in every possible way. He would gently support me when I got up, adjust my posture to make me comfortable when I slept, and bring me a cup of warm tea when I woke up in the middle of the night. In this loving environment, I looked forward to the baby's arrival with great joy. I knew this child would be the crystallization of the love between Pei Ruyan and me, the most precious gift in our lives, and we, too, would use all our love to hold up a warm and happy sky for him. At last, on a bright and sunny day, I welcomed the time to give birth. The entire Marquis residence was shrouded in an atmosphere of tension and anticipation. Midwives and maids came and went in a flurry, busily occupied without a moment to spare, while Pei Ruyan paced anxiously outside the delivery room, his face filled with worry. Severe pain surged toward me like a tide, I bit down hard, sweat soaking through my clothes. Each contraction felt as if it were tearing my soul apart, but there was only one belief in my heart: I had to give birth to the child safely. Some time passed before a clear, piercing baby's cry split the sky. "Congratulations, my lord, it's a little son." The midwife carried the child out of the delivery room, beaming with joy. When Pei Ruyan heard those words, tears of excitement instantly welled up in his eyes. He hurried into the delivery room, came to my side, and tightly took my hand, saying in a trembling voice, "My lady, you've worked so hard." I looked at him and gave a tired smile. "My lord, our child." Pei Ruyan gently stroked my face and said, "My lady, we have a son. He is very healthy, and you are safe and sound as well. This is the best gift heaven has given us." I nodded slightly, my heart filled with happiness. The midwife brought the baby to me, and as I looked at that wrinkled little face in the swaddling cloth, a wave of indescribable love rose in my heart. His eyes were tightly shut, his little mouth opening and closing as he let out soft cries, the sweetest sound in the world. Pei Ruyan also leaned in to look at the baby, his eyes full of tenderness and affection. He gently extended a finger to touch the baby's tiny hand. As if sensing his father's warmth, the baby tightly grasped his finger, and a look of relief and delight appeared on Pei Ruyan's face. The entire Marquis mansion was immersed in joy. The birth of this little life brought new hope and vitality to the Marquis mansion. Madam, who personally selected the best wet nurse to care for the child, the maids were busy preparing various baby essentials, decorating the nursery to be warm and comfortable. The servants strung lanterns and hung colorful banners throughout the Marquis mansion to celebrate the birth of the little heir. Under everyone's devoted care, I quickly regained my strength. Pei Ruyan was especially attentive to me and the child. Every morning at dawn, he would personally change the baby's diaper and feed him. When the baby cried and fussed, he would patiently soothe him to sleep. When I was exhausted, he would take the initiative to shoulder the responsibility of caring for the child so that I could rest properly. As the child grew day by day, he became more and more adorable. He had Pei Ruyan's eyes, deep and bright, and my mouth, small and rosy. He would giggle at us, stretch out his little hands for us to hold him, and every move he made tugged at our hearts. We named him Pei Chen, hoping he would live freely and have a brilliant future like the stars. Under our love and care, Pei Chen grew up healthy and strong. He was intelligent, lively, and adorable, and the Marquis mansion was filled everywhere with his laughter. And Shen Xinyaro and Xiao Chen were tortured beyond endurance in prison, and in the end they received the punishment they deserved. Shen Xinyaro could not bear the suffering of imprisonment and committed suicide in her cell. Xiao Chen was sentenced to death and paid for his actions with his life. Those who had once hurt me all received their just deserts, and I, Pei Ruyan, and our child finally welcomed the happy life that belonged to us. Our family stayed by one another's side, loving and caring for each other, spending one wonderful moment after another in this Marquis's residence. Years later, Pei Chen had grown into a handsome and elegant young man. He inherited Pei Ruyan's intelligence and fearless courage, and he also had my kindness and gentleness. He resolved to be like his father and make contributions to the country and its people. On a bright and sunny day, Pei Ruyan and I took Pei Chen to the outskirts for an outing. We strolled across the lush green grass, feeling the breeze on our faces and enjoying this rare peace and warmth. Pei Chen ran ahead, picking wildflowers by the roadside, occasionally turning back to wave at us, his face beaming with a happy smile. I leaned against Pei Ruyan's shoulder, looking at the beautiful scenery before me and my family, and I was filled with emotion. I thanked fate for granting me rebirth, for giving me the chance to rewrite my destiny, to meet and fall in love with Pei Ruyan, and to have such a happy and fulfilling family. "Shizzy, thank you for giving me such a wonderful life," I said softly. Pei Ruyan held my hand tightly and said, "Madam, the one who should be saying thank you is me. It was you who made me feel the warmth of home and the power of love. With you and Ichen by my side, I am the happiest person in this world." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Ju Cheng and I got engaged at the age of 15. The formalities of the engagement process took 3 years, and as the wedding date approached, Ju Cheng suddenly told me that he intended to take a second wife, who would enter the family at the same time as me. Suppressing my anger, I asked him softly, "Are you really determined to marry your cousin as your equal wife?" Ju Cheng shook his head and said, "The equal wife isn't her, it's you." After confirming once more that this wasn't a joke, I looked at Ju Cheng with a strange expression. Well, that's a new one, like a small knife slicing the butt. Truly eye-opening. There are actually people in this world who want the princess to be a co-wife. Seeing my silence, Ju Cheng thought there was a chance and coaxed in a low voice, "My cousin is the kindest of all. She has been beautiful and intelligent since childhood, well-educated and reasonable. Her family background is not as good as yours. So if she becomes a co-wife, she will surely be wronged in the future. So you've decided that I should be the one to become the co-wife." Perhaps I was blinded by anger. Hearing such nonsense, I actually became eerily calm. Ju Cheng frowned slightly, seemingly displeased with my counter-question. "Bear, I don't want it to be this way either, but my cousin is soft-natured and doesn't have as strong a backing as you do. I have no choice but to put in more effort to strengthen her position." As he spoke, Ju Cheng still didn't see anything wrong with his words. "Don't worry, when the time comes, both you and my cousin will be my wives. I won't favor either of you. My cousin is the kindest person. She's definitely not the type to be unreasonable or cause trouble for you." When we first got engaged, Ju Cheng promised me that he would be devoted to me alone, with no thought of another. But now, before I've even crossed his threshold, he wants to marry both a wife and a concubine. Dreaming of enjoying the blessings of a Huang and Nuying, how ridiculous. No matter how nicely they dress it up, the title of equal wife is just a fancy name cooked up by families with no sense of propriety. In reality, she's still just a concubine serving tea and fanning the primary wife. I took half a step back and looked at him with disgust. "Please leave, young Master Ju. Since you already have a beloved by your side, our engagement is off. Don't bring it up again." Ju Cheng sighed helplessly, looking at me as if I were the one being unreasonable. "The betrothal formalities between our two families have already been completed. If you were to break off the engagement at this point, I'm afraid it would greatly damage your reputation." Such words spoken in anger are better left unsaid. I trembled with rage. His cousin had been living in his household for 5 years, and in all that time, there had been no rumors of any affection between her and Ju Cheng. Yet now, at this very moment, he plans to marry both a wife and a concubine at the same time. So this was his scheme, to wait until it was too late for me to back out of the marriage. As young Master Ju suggests, should I be thanking you for not having her and me carried through the gates together on our wedding day? Ju Cheng lowered his gaze, his face clearly showing displeasure. "It's just an empty title. You have the support of the royal mansion behind you, and I won't let anyone look down on you. Why must you be so particular about it? Besides, a true man in this world, must he be bound to one woman? I know you're not the domineering type. If you truly care for me, show the gentle and considerate side you've always had. Don't act like a resentful wife." I closed my eyes, held back for a moment, but couldn't hold it in any longer. She raised her hand and slapped him. I put all my strength into that slap, and the side of his face visibly swelled and reddened. Ju Cheng touched the injured area, his face darkening. "You're utterly unreasonable. The betrothal formalities have already been completed between us. If you break off the engagement now, let's see who in the entire capital would dare marry you. Besides, no matter how jealous you may feel about this matter, the marriage alliance between our two families has already been settled and cannot be changed. If you wish to have any standing in the Ju household after entering it, you should voluntarily relinquish your status as the principal wife. Tell your father and mother that you are willing to enter the family as a co-wife." My face turned cold as I narrowed my eyes and stared at him for a long moment. So that's it. I wondered what ill wind had blown Ju Cheng here today. It turns out he had planned it. Knowing full well that my father and mother were not at home, he came to me under various pretexts, trying to force me to yield, to make me go and tell my parents myself, all while he hides behind the scenes to reap The benefits at this thought, I suddenly asked, "What is my name?" Ju Cheng was taken aback for a moment and replied, "Li Bauer." "What nonsense are you talking about?" I waved my hand, having long noticed that something was amiss between the two of us. The group of guards waiting in the distance quickly rushed over. "We are engaged to be married. I wouldn't mind if you called me Bauer." Recalling his mad ravings, I couldn't help but laugh in anger. "But from now on, you must address me as your Highness. Throw him out for me." Several tall guards lifted him by both arms. Ju Cheng looked at me with disbelief. "How dare you? I am your prince's future son-in-law." I laughed heartily. What is there to fear? As long as I take a liking to someone, any young man in the capital can become my husband. Didn't you, Ju Cheng, surpass your own elder brother? Today, I'll show you exactly why my father named me Bauer. With that, I raised an eyebrow and glanced at the guards, emphasizing my words. "Throw him out." Ju Cheng stormed back home in a huff and happened to run into Lady Ju. Lady Ju was just wondering when she heard Ju Cheng, suppressing his anger, complain, "It's all because you insisted I marry Cousin Ru as well. Otherwise, why would I have gone to their house today to suffer such humiliation?" After hearing the whole story, Lady Ju was extremely displeased with me and resolved to discipline my temper thoroughly after I entered their household. However, on the surface, she advised, the princess has a rebellious nature and is not as gentle and capable in managing the household as your cousin. In the capital, only our family doesn't mind her lack of propriety. Marrying into our family is like falling into a nest of riches. She's just young and doesn't understand things yet. In a few days, I'll send an invitation for her to visit, and I'll explain to her in detail the benefits of having your cousin as a co-wife to manage the household. Once she understands, she'll apologize to you. After sending Ju Cheng away, I immediately dispatched a messenger on horseback to deliver a letter to my father, the prince, and mother, who were away providing disaster relief. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. So I went to the palace overnight to complain to the empress. I thought I had completely severed ties with the Ju family, but unexpectedly, a few days later, I suddenly received an invitation from them to a flower viewing party. The maids all advised me not to go, but I refused, thinking, it's not me who did something wrong, so why should I hide from their family? Arriving at the Ju family's gate, I dismounted from my horse. The beautiful greeter at the door suddenly reached out to stop me. Her delicate brows arched gracefully as she approached with light steps, speaking in a soft, hushed tone, yet her words were, "Sister Li, the Ju residence is hosting a banquet today, and all the guests are distinguished figures of high status. How could you attend dressed in such an ambiguous, neither masculine nor feminine manner? Even if you hold a grudge against me, you shouldn't embarrass the Ju family like this." Today, I was wearing a practical Red Riding outfit. In the entire capital, aside from state banquets, I wear whatever I please. Apart from the emperor's daughters, no one has the right to judge me like this. I drew the whip from my waist and struck the young lady who had lived in the Ju residence for 5 years. "Young madam, Ruer." Hearing the servants' exclamations, I looked at Ju Cheng, who had rushed over in a hurry. With a half-smile, he looked at the whip marks on Xia Wanru's body, his heart aching as he pulled her into his embrace. "Li Bauer, Ruer has been grieving over your matter for days and nights. Today, to share mother's burden, she has been busy around the house since early morning and even made a point to welcome you at the door. She meant well. Is this how you treat her?" I glanced at the guests who had just arrived and were already frowning at my perceived arrogance. I let out a scornful laugh and looked at the two of them with disdain. "Young madam, may I ask which branch of the family's young madam she is? Why wasn't the entire city's relatives invited to the wedding celebration?" The people around had varied expressions and were all discussing, "Isn't that the young lady from the Ju family? When did she enter the Ju household? Even if she was taken in as a noble concubine, there should have been a banquet. Right, how can she be called madam so ambiguously? Even if she is a noble concubine, she shouldn't be called young madam, right? Besides, the main wife hasn't even entered the household yet. What kind of situation is this?" Ju Cheng's expression changed drastically as he stepped forward, grabbing my hand and lowering his voice. "Enough, how can you be so vicious? Must you ruin someone's reputation like this? With a crack of the whip, Ju Cheng shielded Xia Wanru as they retreated. Hastily, just then, Madame Ju rushed out in a flurry, exclaiming, "My two troublemakers, what misunderstanding couldn't be resolved properly at home? Must you cause a scene right at the front door? It's as if I owed you both in a past life. Will you carry on like this every day after you're married? And you, Bauer can wear whatever she likes. Who are you to make such comments?" Xia Wanru, being scolded, flashed a hint of resentment in her eyes, yet she maintained a gentle and proper demeanor. As she curtsied to apologize, Wanna spoke out of turn, "I beg the princess to forgive me and not take it out on cousin Cheng." Her restrained and sensible appearance twisted Ju Cheng's heart like a knife, making him increasingly dissatisfied with me. He resolved not to enter my room on our wedding day, intending to humiliate me greatly with just a few words. Madame Ju dismissed the commotion between Ju Cheng and me as nothing more than a childish squabble. The onlookers, seeing there was no more excitement to be had, all stepped forward to persuade me, "Your Highness is magnanimous, so let this matter rest. After all, you will be family in the future. Don't let trivial matters harm your harmony." Some even looked disdainful and began lecturing, "As a woman, how can you be so domineering and ill-mannered? There's not a trace of humility or gentleness in you. Where have all the lessons from the 4 books for women gone?" I laughed heartily, brushing off the unpleasant remarks as nothing but nonsense, and only cupped my hands respectfully toward the lady who had sincerely advised me earlier. "Thank you for your concern, Lady Wang. I've heard that the Chief Minister of the Court of Judicial Review is just and impartial, and I imagine his wife is the same. Today, I ask all of you to bear witness. Madame Ju, young Master Ju, the other day you came to my princely residence and asked me to voluntarily request to be a secondary wife, wanting to marry both wife and concubine at the same time. You wanted me, a princess, to play second fiddle to your precious cousin. Isn't that right? What banquet? I'm here today to crash the party." Madame Ju's face turned pale, and she shot a fierce glare at Xia Wanru. Instantly realizing that someone was stirring up trouble behind the scenes, she quickly explained, "Absolutely not. The marriage between our two families was personally decreed by His Majesty. How could there be such an absurd idea of demoting a wife to a concubine?" I looked at Ju Cheng and Xia Wanru's evasive expressions and said with a half-smile, "Oh, so the Ju family knows this is absurd too. I thought the Li family couldn't compare to the Xia family." The 3 of them turned pale with fright. I found it rather dull. I had thought the Ju family had ironclad pride and was such a prominent noble house that they looked down on the Li imperial clan. "So you're afraid of death after all?" Ju Cheng, his face pale, no longer called me Li. "Bauer, Your Highness, please be careful with your words. The Ju family has absolutely no such intention." "Oh," I raised an eyebrow, "so the talk about making me a co-wife is just baseless rumors." "It's a misunderstanding, Madame Ju repeatedly assured me, while Xia Wanru's face turned deathly pale. I teased, "So if we both marry our cousin, and the servants call cousin Xia young mistress, is that also a misunderstanding?" For a moment, all 3 of them were speechless. If they admitted it, Xia Wanru would never be allowed to set foot in the Ju residence again. If they didn't admit it, the Ju family servants had already addressed her as the young mistress, and the women present were neither deaf nor foolish. Who is easy to fool? Ju Cheng grabbed my forearm again, the plump flesh spilling from between his fingers, gripping me until it hurt. "Li Bauer, that's enough. You will be the matriarch of the Ju family in the future. If the Ju family loses face, you lose face too. Don't act like a jealous woman with no tolerance. If you push me too far, even if I have to defy the imperial decree, I won't marry you. You can just wait to grow old alone." "Oh my, I'm so scared." Using gauze to wipe the crotch, the Ju family really pulled a fast one on me. Xia Wanru looked at me with tearful eyes, her expression pleading, appearing utterly pitiful, but I felt not a shred of sympathy. From the very beginning of our engagement, I knew there was such a cousin who had taken refuge in the Ju household over the years. I have pitied her for having no one to rely on every festival and holiday. Haven't I always sent her gold and silver ornaments, fine clothes, and luxurious garments? Even though Ju Cheng always showed her extra care and was more considerate of her than of me, I never held it against either of them. I only told her that if there was anything a man couldn't handle, she should feel free to tell me. I had thought Ju Cheng was simply being kind and responsible as an older brother, which was why he paid extra attention to Xia Wanru. Little did I know that the two of them had long been exchanging flirtatious glances, treating me like a fool. The atmosphere was tense and deadlocked. Madame Ju suddenly wiped her tears and said, "This is my fault. If the princess wishes to blame anyone, blame me. My niece has had a pitiful life with no one to rely on. As she grows older, she still hasn't found a good match. So, I had to swallow my pride and ask Cheng to discuss with the princess after they are married to give Wanru a place to stay and a bite to eat." With that, she pretended to glare at Ju Cheng and continued tearfully, "I don't know how that wretched debtor managed to speak to the princess, causing her to misunderstand so deeply. A few days ago, I thought the princess was always so righteous and kind-hearted that she wouldn't refuse this matter, so I asked Rua to share some of the burden with me, partly so that she could assist the princess in the future and not be looked down upon in this household. Secondly, it's a pity for a girl from a good family to become a concubine. I was hoping the princess could show her some respect, so she wouldn't have to endure a miserable life in the household. If the princess is unwilling, then let's just forget it. It's just a shame for my niece. She might have to spend the rest of her life with a solitary lamp and Buddhist scriptures, ending her days in sorrow." As her words fell, many of the women present showed expressions of pity. The disgust towards the Ju family's absurd arrangements had faded somewhat. Incredible, she actually managed to lose 2 out of 3 sets. She really has a knack for it. Before the engagement, my mother told me that Lady Ju would not be easy to deal with. Now that I see it for myself, it's exactly as she said, truly worthy of being the champion of household strife who outlasted the first wife to rise to power. After all that performance, I ended up being the one who came across as aggressive. When others speak of the Ju family, they will only say that they may have acted without full consideration, but their intentions were compassionate, and it is truly pitiable and lamentable that they encountered such a domineering daughter-in-law like me. The lady who had previously advised me to study the 4 books for women said, "Princess Baocheng is too aggressive. It's perfectly normal for a man to have multiple wives and concubines. Besides, didn't the Ju family and young Master Ju discuss it with you in a reasonable manner? No matter how narrow-minded you are, you could have just refused privately. Why make a scene at their doorstep? I see this girl is gentle and virtuous, not the type to stir up trouble. Now that the princess has made such a fuss, we have no choice but to accept her. Are we really going to force her to live a life of solitude with only a dim lamp and ancient scriptures for company? That wouldn't be good for the princess's reputation either." She spoke with earnest concern, as if she had my best interests at heart in every matter. Lady Ju and Ju Cheng also showed a hint of satisfaction in their eyes. It seemed they were certain that, for the sake of my reputation, I would agree to let Xia Wanru enter the household, and from then on, the matter would never be brought up again. I, Li Bauer, never come out on the losing end. No matter what I eat. I gave the lady a cold, mocking glance and said to Mrs. Ju, "Aren't you worried about what will become of your niece in the future? Mrs. Zhong here is quite fond of Miss Xia. Why not have her make the engagement today? This is the wife of the Minister of Rights, a second-rank official in the court. After all, she'd still be a concubine. But isn't that more promising than being with Ju Cheng, a layabouts with no achievements to his name?" Mrs. Zhong immediately fell silent. Xia Wanru's eyes reddened. "Princess, how could you insult me like this? If I am an eyesore to you, Princess, I would rather leave this world with my innocence intact today. Better that than to be so humiliated by you at the doorstep." With that, Xia Wanru covered her head and rushed to crash into the doorframe. Rua. Ju Cheng let out a mournful cry as he gathered the limp Xia Wanru into his arms. I stared for a long moment but couldn't see where Xia Wanru, whose forehead remained perfectly intact after hitting the doorframe, had actually been injured. Ju Cheng's eyes burned crimson with hatred as he glared at me. "You jealous witch, if anything happens to Wana, I'll hold you responsible. Once Prince Yu returns to the capital, I will certainly demand an explanation for how he raised his daughter." 3 frogs strutting into a brothel, each one hopping higher than the last. I cast a cold glance their way. They really think they're something special, if it weren't for Ju Cheng's handsome face, which I thought would impress my noble sisters. When I brought him along, I would never have chosen him in the first place. All these years, the Ju family has been riding on the coattails of my Prince Yu's mansion. Do they really think their smooth-sailing official careers are all their own doing now? Forget about impressing anyone. I'll probably be receiving countless mocking letters in the coming days. It's practically a criminal record. There's no need to ask. You are not worthy to question my father the king. Today I have come and brought a gift for your esteemed household. I clapped my hands, and the maid stepped forward holding a tray. These are the betrothal tokens exchanged between our 2 families. Now I return them all, and from this day forward, you and I have nothing to do with each other. What? Ju Cheng and Madame Ju gasped in shock. Xia Wanru, with her eyes closed, had her eyeballs darting frantically. After much internal struggle, she still didn't wake up. Lady Ju, her face full of panic, said, "Princess Baocheng, how can you treat such an important matter as marriage so lightly? Quickly put those things away and stop being so willful." Ju Cheng directly scolded, "Li Bao, our marriage was personally decreed by His Majesty. If you want to court death, find a place where no one is around to die. Don't drag the Ju family down with you when His Majesty lays down the blame, afraid of offending the Emperor, but offending his only blood brother is no big deal. In the end, it's because my father only has me, his daughter. Ju Cheng has long regarded everything about me as his own resource, so he looks down on me, ignores me, and treats me however he pleases without a second thought. When there's no meeting of minds, even half a sentence is too many. I signaled to my maid, 'Go, return the tokens of betrothal.' Ju Cheng was instantly flustered. He abandoned the unconscious Xia Wanru and quickly walked over to me. "Bao Bao, I never intended to break off our engagement. It's just that your personality is too proud. I never felt any love from you. That's why I wanted to use Rua to test your true feelings for me. You have always been the one in my heart. Please stop making a scene. This is defying the imperial decree. If His Majesty blames us, even I won't be able to protect you." When we left the palace, the Empress Dowager was scolding the Emperor for his meddlesome matchmaking habits. She said it was rare for a younger generation member to choose their own partner, yet he just had to interfere. A good marriage would turn sour just by being associated with him. The Emperor's uncle had his grievances but couldn't speak of them. If I hadn't insisted on handling this myself, the entire Ju family would be in prison by now. How dare they have the audacity to protect me? I lifted the jade pendant on the tray with the tip of my whip. "Young Master Ju, are you having trouble understanding my words, testing my sincerity for him? It's laughable to hear, swearing brotherhood with yourself. Who do you think you are? I say, let's call off our marriage." Ju Cheng choked up. "Marriage is a matter of matchmakers' words and parents' decision. How can you act recklessly on your own? Bao, don't be willful. If you don't like Rua, I won't marry her then." I saw Xia Wanru's body on the ground tremble slightly for a moment, and my smile grew even more mocking as I mounted the horse. "Back then, it was my own choice to agree to the engagement with your family, and now I'm the one calling it off. What decision can't I make for myself?" He looked at me with a helpless expression that seemed to say, "You're throwing a tantrum again, so your words don't count right now. When the prince returns, I will come to apologize in person, then you'll understand my sincerity." "Bao, your temperament is unlike any of the noble ladies in the capital. You can't compare to their gentleness and virtue, but I don't hold it against you. Just don't always make me lose face. I am human, I get tired." "Oh, so he's human, and I'm not. He can test me however he pleases. When he's happy, he coaxes me with sweet words. When he's unhappy, he turns cold and heartless, forcing me to bow and scrape, offering resources and wealth, begging and pleading just to earn a kind look from my husband." He had grown accustomed to the convenience and privileges that came with his male role, but he forgot that I was the one holding the higher position in this marriage. With a flick of my wrist, the jade pendant fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. I swung the horsewhip fiercely toward him. the sound cutting through the air with a sharp crack. Amid Madame Ju's screams, I spurred my horse and rode away. Ju Cheng was struck by a whip, yet he felt no pain, staring blankly at the shattered jade pendant on the ground. It was as if he had lost something precious. The people around exchanged glances and took their leave one after another. The Ju family was about to fall. Madame Ju was now genuinely shedding tears of distress. Chenga, how are you? This Li Bao is truly uncouth and rude. When Prince Yu and Princess Yu return, I will definitely lodge a proper complaint against her. Ju Cheng frowned. Enough, mother. Do you really think there isn't enough chaos already? I told you before to let me marry Bao first, and we could discuss taking my cousin as a concubine later, but you insisted on having them both enter the household at the same time. If it weren't for the two of you, Li Bao wouldn't have caused such a scene at the door. You've made me lose all face. Upon hearing her son's accusation, Mrs. Ju felt both sorrow and resentment in her heart, yet she could not bring herself to hate her own son. Seeing Xia Wanru still lying on the ground, her fondness for the girl vanished instantly. She thought to herself, is it all because of this restless, discontented creature that my son has grown distant from me? She ordered the servants, what are you all standing around for? Hurry up and take Miss Xia back to her room. She should not come out unless necessary. The servants, ever quick to adapt to the prevailing wind, hearing this, I no longer regarded Xia Wanru as the young mistress. Only then did Lady Ju's pent-up anger dissipate slightly, as if the one who had decided to assert dominance over me and put me in my place wasn't her at all. Returning to the prince's manor, the steward immediately handed me a letter, sent by my father who was far away providing disaster relief 1,000 miles away. First, I declared that I would not let the Ju family off easily, and then mentioned that I had already written to the emperor, my uncle, requesting the annulment of the marriage. Finally, I said that among my subordinates, there is a young general who, upon learning of my broken engagement with the Ju family, was overjoyed and volunteered to marry into the Prince of Yu's residence, not minding how many male consorts I keep. My father, seeing his sincerity and tolerance, sent him to deliver this letter. If you take a liking to him and are willing to grant him a title, then do so. If not, just send him back to the military camp. When he returns from disaster relief, he can bring me 10 or 8 handsome men instead. Oh no, I've become Ju Cheng. I had intended to call someone to turn him away, but the butler brought back a burly bear of a man. A tall shadow loomed over me in the chair, and upon closer look, wasn't this the little fatty I used to bully when we were kids? Though saying I bullied him isn't entirely accurate. When he was a child, this kid would be out of breath after just a few steps. He was often tricked by other boys into giving away his food and drinks, and when they snatched his things, he couldn't catch up. When they tugged at his clothes and cursed at him, he couldn't even win an argument. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I grabbed a whip and gave them a good beating. I forced little fatty to become my sidekick, serving me tea and water. Later, the Crown Prince's tutor, who was also the teacher of my uncle, the then Crown Prince, returned home to observe a period of mourning and took little fatty with him. We never saw each other again after that. I just had to ask, isn't your family a scholarly one? Why did you join the military? Xie Mingzhao knelt on one knee, his fierce eyes brimming with tears. Didn't you always say you hated weak scholars who couldn't even draw a bow? As soon as my mourning period ended, I enlisted under Prince Yu's command. I never expected you would be betrothed so early. I thought I had missed my chance forever. Sob, his crying annoyed me, and I kicked him in the abdomen. Stop crying, I haven't agreed to it yet. So hard. Xie Mingzhao grabbed my calf firmly in his palm, as if he hadn't heard, and answered irrelevantly, would your highness like a leg massage? I laughed in exasperation, lifting my toes to press against his chin, forcing him to look up. His bronze-colored ears flushed slightly red, and Xie Mingzhao averted his gaze. Not daring to look at me, a sudden impulse stirred within me, as if guided by some unseen force. It's not impossible for you to marry me. Xie Mingzhao's eyes lit up. I thought it over carefully. Xie Mingzhao isn't bad-looking, and having someone like him wouldn't be embarrassing. Plus, he's tall and strong. If any of my cousins dare to mock me by bringing up my criminal record, I'll just have Xie Mingzhao beat up their husbands. At that thought, I lowered my tiptoes and pretended not to see the disappointment in Xie Mingzhao's eyes. Go back, the betrothal gifts will be delivered to your place in a few days. The 108 betrothal gifts filled the courtyard to the brim. Just as I was considering whether to go hunting for a pair of live geese in the outskirts, Zhu Cheng arrived with the jade pendant, now repaired with gold and silver. Seeing this, his expression immediately relaxed, and he asked with a hint of satisfaction, "Bao Bei, is this your dowry?" I frowned, wondering how he had gotten in, and denied it. "No." Zhu Cheng looked smug and pleased with himself. "Bao Bei, stop pretending. Isn't your husband here to apologize to you? You were so angry the other day that you said the marriage was off, but now you've even prepared the dowry. Mother will definitely be happy when she finds out. Later, come back to the Zhu residence with me to apologize to her and show her the dowry list. The princess of Yu isn't at the residence, so don't just stuff anything valuable or not into the dowry just because you like it." I gave him a speechless look. "It's like finding a shrimp while eating sunflower seeds. There's all kinds of people," I said, word by word. "Young Master Zhu, let me remind you once more, our engagement has been called off. If you have nothing else, please leave." Clearly, Zhu Cheng didn't take my words seriously. He grabbed my hand and shoved the poorly repaired jade pendant into my arms. "Bao Bei, don't say such angry words." I pulled it out and threw it far away. Zhu Cheng was furious. "Li Bao Bei, this jade pendant took me so much effort to repair. Don't be so ungrateful." I raised an eyebrow with a faint, ambiguous smile. Though I remained silent, the implication was clear. "What can you possibly do about it?" Zhu Cheng's face darkened as he issued a veiled threat. "Li Bao, if you persist like this, I will surely gather signatures and submit a petition accusing you of contempt for the imperial authority and disrespect for the emperor's decree." "Oh, so you haven't heard yet." I settled into the chair a maid had brought for me. "Our betrothal has been annulled by the imperial decree of the emperor, as the imperial astronomers declared our birth dates incompatible." "What?" Zhu Cheng was taken aback. The confidence he had always relied on to control me was gone, and his panic became visibly apparent. "We have already completed all 3 letters and 6 etiquettes. How could our birth dates be incompatible?" I reached out my hand, and another maid presented fragrant tea, reminding me, "Your uncle is the son of heaven. If he says it's not suitable, then it's not suitable." Zhu Cheng was incredulous, his voice trembling. "But this marriage was personally bestowed by His Majesty. How can it be treated so lightly? When the emperor's word is law, so what? As the emperor, he has the final say. The fortune teller you found is not as good as the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. His predictions are unreliable." Zhu Cheng appeared as if possessed by a demon, shouting, "I must ask the emperor, I must ask." I signaled the guards not to stop him and reminded him, "Go ahead if you want, but first, you'll have to get into the palace. Remember not to speak out of turn. You're no longer the son-in-law of the emperor's only brother." Zhu Cheng visibly calmed down a great deal. Narcissus not blooming, just pretending to be garlic. In the end, I still managed to hunt 2 plump wild geese. I delivered them all the way to Xie Mingzhao's home, making a clamor as I went. The common folk who saw it along the way asked one after another, "Whose family is taking a bride?" Someone awkwardly replied, "This is Princess Baocheng delivering a betrothal gift to the youngest son of the former Grand Tutor." The visitor remained silent for a long time before finally blurting out, "The Li family's daughter is truly extraordinary." Zhu Cheng, who had been turned away at the palace gates, wandered the streets with a helpless expression. After forcing his way into the palace and being beaten by the imperial guards, he anxiously produced the token bestowed upon him by the Empress Dowager. The imperial guards snatched it away, accusing him of forging the token, and beat him once again. The Zhu residence, once bustling with visitors, had suddenly turned as cold as ice, meeting boiling water during this period. After several attempts to contact officials in the court with the intention of accusing the Prince Yu's residence of breaking off the engagement, the other party either directly rejected their petition or explicitly instructed them to have no further dealings with the Zhu family. It was only at this moment that Zhu Cheng realized that the prosperity of the Zhu family had always been because of me, because of the Prince Yu's residence. At that moment, He heard the commoners say that I had gone to Xie Mingzhao's home to deliver the betrothal gifts. Zhu Cheng's eyes turned bloodshot. How can a woman give betrothal gifts to a man? This is outright rebellion. She's already an 18-year-old spinster. How could she find a new match so quickly? I see it now, she must have been colluding with some scoundrel all along. That's why she broke off the engagement with me. Slut, slut. The people around him quickly backed away. Afraid of being charged with insulting a member of the royal family, someone rolled their eyes. If the emperor can appoint a crown princess, why can't a princess consort take a husband? How foolish, thinking that just because you were born a man, the whole world should adore you. Returning to the Zhu residence, Lord Zhu, who had been away from home for a long time, stood in the main hall fuming with anger. Father, weren't you supposed to be on duty? Why have you come back at this hour? Father Zhu raised his hand and slapped Zhu Cheng hard across the face. On duty? I won't have to go on duty ever again. Zhu Cheng's head buzzed from the blow, a streak of blood marking his face. Madame Zhu was horrified. Sir, what are you doing? Are you trying to beat your own son to death? Father Zhu sneered. It's not like I'm short of sons. With that, she turned and left. Xie Wanru carried the soup to the door, thought for a moment, then turned and walked away. She stood on the path that the eldest son of the Zhu family, the legitimate son born to the first wife, would inevitably take on his way home from school, putting on a sorrowful expression when Lady Zhu found out. She was furious, fuming. She resolved to find Zhu Cheng a marriage match that would not be inferior to the one offered by the Prince of Yu's household. Unexpectedly, noble women in the capital, even minor officials, all avoided her like the plague. Back then, everyone praised her to her face, calling her a compassionate mother with a merciful heart, as kind as a bodhisattva, but behind her back, who would willingly send their daughter to such a household, one that, even before the bride had crossed the threshold, sought to assert dominance by arranging for both wife and concubine to be married at the same time. The wedding day had arrived. On the day I rode a tall horse to the Xie residence to welcome my bride, a disheveled man suddenly darted out onto the road. It was Zhu Cheng. He clung to my leg, apologizing. Princess, I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way. You are of noble birth. How could you, in a moment of anger, do something that would make the whole world condemn you and turn the natural order upside down? Xie Wanru has already been driven out of the Zhu residence. You and I will get married today, and I promise to treat you well from now on, devoting myself wholeheartedly to you and never looking at another woman. I looked at Zhu Cheng and just wanted to roll my eyes without me having to give the order. The wedding procession dragged him aside from afar. I could still hear Zhu Cheng shouting, Princess Bao Cheng, I was wrong. I am your husband, the one who should have married you. If Zhu Cheng hadn't broken our promise and betrayed my feelings, then indeed, it would have been him and I getting married today. But everything is too late now. I am Bao Cheng Junzhu, a member of the imperial clan. I can endure anything, but I will not endure injustice. When I went to pick up Xie Mingzhao, he gave me a resentful look. Princess, I thought that with today's wedding, I would gain a brother. Don't worry. I'm not that petty. I wouldn't mind you having a second husband. As he said this, tears streamed down Xie Mingzhao's face. One eye said the wild man is waiting, the other said I'll finish you off when we get back. I was taken aback for a moment, then chuckled wryly, realizing he must have known about Zhu Cheng blocking the way. I reached out my hand to him, inviting him to ride with me. What do I care about side husbands? One person to accompany me for life is enough. After the wedding, I requested from the emperor the task of leading troops to suppress bandits and took Xie Mingzhao with me. On the way, an elegant young man stopped us, saying I had done him a great favor and he wanted to give me a gift. His servant brought forward a box, inside which was Xie Wanru, tied up securely. I turned my head away in disgust. Next time, give gold or silver as gifts, not trash. You should take this person back with you. Zhu Ling was left speechless and chuckled wryly. My apologies for the discourtesy. I shall take my leave now. After he left, I looked at Xie Mingzhao in confusion. He told me with a hint of jealousy, that was the eldest son of the Zhu family, thanks to you. Before, I was always suppressed by the second young master and couldn't get ahead. I thought the Zhu family estate was going to fall into the hands of the younger son. Oh, It has nothing to do with sending troops. Let's continue on our way. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.